like most children who struggle with learning, she can play it to her advantage. Okay, someone got hurt, I'll be the first one to take them to the office to get out of reading this, to get out of writing this. Let me help the teacher do this.
You are listening to this episode's guest, Summer Shadler, a parent I met in Sacramento, California. Welcome to Lindamood-Bell Radio, a podcast on all things literacy and learning. I'm Dave Hungerford for Lindamood-Bell, and we believe that every individual can learn to read and comprehend to their potential. Educators, attend one of our renowned teacher workshops. Lindamood-Bell has pioneered programs to develop the sensory cognitive functions that underlie language and literacy skills. We want to help you teach your students to learn to their potential. That's why all our workshops, like visualizing and verbalizing, seeing stars, and lips, are now available online. Plus, when you take an online workshop, the price of your complete kit is included. Find the workshop schedule at lindamoodbell.com. Ms. Shadler's daughter has been a student at the Lindamood-Bell Learning Center and the Academy. Here's our conversation.
Tegan is a very high energy, happy, always happy, and loves to help, loves to be a part, loves to be a leader. And she's fun.
Does she have siblings?
So she is the second of 4 girls. And so when we had our third daughter and were thinking of maybe going for a fourth, we wanted to make sure we knew the personality of the third because Tegan was already ruling the roost of the 3 in the household at that point. So we had to make sure that, okay, is this third one going to be the same as Tegan, or maybe a little bit more mellow would be helpful? Our third is so mellow, but Tegan, our second, is more like a first child. Just, she comes into the room and she's ready to take charge.
What's her academic experience been like?
Very different. So our first child, very traditional in that, started to read 4, 5, by 5, we were reading at a normal basic book level. For Tegan, when she was in preschool, and we had the third daughter that is a year and a half younger, 18 months apart, the preschool teacher, I asked her some questions. I go, I just feel like Tegan's learning differently than Tylee did. And she goes, well, you're always in the car. We drive to Tahoe, we ski. She goes, when you're driving in the car for a long time, why don't you throw in this video called TAD, Letter Factory? I go, oh, sure, I remember that from our first time. Yeah, we've watched that before. And so we put it in the car and pressed play for probably a week. So anytime we were in the car, it was on. And we go to school on a Monday, and teasing, I told the teacher, the O says, ah, because I was about to go crazy. And the 2.5-year-old in tow, who was barely speaking, picked up from where I said in the video and recited every single word in the video. Not just the sounds of the letters, but every single word in the video. And finally at our jaws had dropped, and the teacher said, well, clearly you've been watching the video. And I said, and Tegan was standing right next to her, and Tegan knew it was familiar, but even then, it wasn't sticking. Whereas this 2.5-year-old had recited the entire video. So that was my first, see, I told you there's something different, right? In my own mind. And the teacher said, okay, well, we'll talk about this more in class. So that was my first aha moment. And then because she was so young, everyone said, well, everyone learns at a different rate. She's so high energy, that's part of it. Okay. So we kind of went along, and kindergarten, the kindergarten teacher was more of a care bear than wasn't a real pusher for reading. More, lets everybody get along, make sure you know your letters and sounds, which she did. And then the first week of first grade, I said, I'm really worried. We've worked all summer. It's sometimes we do all this work, and then we go and address it the next day, not even 24 hours later, and it's as if she's never seen these words before. that's weird to me. She goes, yeah, I'll watch her. So we make it a week through first grade. First grade teacher was on it. And second week, she called me and she said, yeah, I want you to go get her tested. Something's going on. She's not retaining. So that was our second part of, my goodness, here I knew when she was, 4 years old, I knew there was something, and yet it took that long to get the teachers on board, right? Because everybody does learn at a different level. So we went and did an IEP, individual education plan, which is our public school. You have to have that as a standardized. And there were certain categories that she was like 100% like missing 100% of the information. So her learning foundation not only had cracks, but had major cracks in it. And so I was at a wedding reception, sitting next to someone I had nothing in common with. And that is how I found out about Lindamood-Bell. And for me, I thought, as a mother, I tell people all the time, don't waste it. If you see something, like, don't waste all the time that I did. As a mother that something's not right. And so when we came in here, the testing at Lindamood-Bell is so clear. And so Tegan came here just as Scene Stars. We're going to do 11 weeks, I think is what it was, or 300 hours.
So what was tell me about the testing a little bit, because it's pretty thorough, it's long.
It's thorough, long, and we had already been through all the public school testing, which is longer, and
what was
not
the
as fun.
major difference that you found with, like, when you sit down with the teacher or administrator or special education person at the public schools versus sitting down here with a consultant to talk about the tests that
right.
at Lindamood-Bell? So
Lindamood-Bell was definitely more to the point. So not all the time wasted on, I think it's part of the public school. You have to, you're looking at this kid as a whole, and it's so clear to us that Tegan is so above average, and she is one that can slip through the cracks in a normal system because she's so eager to please. She's so above average in all these other categories, and she's like most children who struggle with learning. She can play it to her advantage. Okay, someone got hurt, I'll be the first one to take them to the office to get out of reading this, to get out of writing this. Let me help the teacher do this. I know that's helpful. I can get out of it.
Strategies?
Right, yeah. Right, absolutely. Even as this little first grader, she had already figured out survival strategies. And which was real interesting to see that at home, because we had an older child that was already doing real homework at that point. Anything, drop the pencil, whatever it was, but it would be anything to eat up that time clock. So of course,
become little con artists too. Like, searching you for like cues about
right.
What's the right answer, or what am I supposed to say here to
absolutely. That's why she's so above average in so many other categories. So it was hard, and I can see that. So in the public school, I just feel like it was just so much of, and then when it came down to what it was specifically, then they said, well, we could probably pull her 30 minutes a week, maybe twice. And the tests were, it was embarrassing, right? How extreme they were. And this is a kid that in a public school could literally go through and pass through and be illiterate. It was that extreme to me. And I go, wait, twice a week for 30 minutes? They go, yeah, that's all we can support, because she can figure it out. I'm like, well, sure she can figure it out, but she can't even survive in first grade. And I said, well, that's not going to help her. I don't want her to just survive. So then when we came in here, it was 4 hours. She enjoyed the testing, for one, which was nice, right? Every kid likes a reward, whether it's a jewel or whatever it is. They like to be acknowledged that their hard work was appreciated, right? Like all of us. So the testing here went very well. We decided to have her come for the intensive program for 4 hours a day. And she is a difficult one. She came in here as a 1.5 grader, so we held her back a year. So she's a summer baby. So you're either young or old. So she came in as a 7-year-old, right? First grade. She was 6 in kindergarten, 7 in first grade, and 7.5-year-old. And knew the letters, knew the sounds, but like the word said, I mean, that, for whatever reason, that was there were words like that she just wasn't seeing the imagery. So she couldn't have it in her brain to pull back out.
So Val's not playing fair,
right.
Said, so she
right. None of
picture it.
Oh yeah, right.
No.
Not at all. So her time here was even a challenge. She didn't meet all her goals even when we started here, because her attention span was so small. And so just working past and having the environment where she could work in 5-minute increments and then throw a ball for 2 minutes or throw a ball while working on words. So she just needed that in order to just change it up. The sitting for 7 hours a day, I think she had just mastered how to not learn in that it was too hard for her. She wasn't following.
So you did a couple of months before, we want to talk about the academy
yeah.
in school. So she did a couple of months of just the intensive instruction first.
So we did that, and that ended, and then we went back to traditional program and tried to apply but the bottom line is the sitting for the 7 hours, even was just too long. So we said, okay, well, let's pull her. So then in 2nd grade, we started her back at her little private school, and I would just pull her during math and reading and writing. And fortunately, the 2nd grade teacher had them all in a row. And so I would pull her for that, drive her over here. She'd do her 3 hours of intensive, and then she would go back for maybe the last hour of school, depending on what the schedule was, so that she was still getting the social card. And we realized that there was that the whole school social card, she has enough social outside. And so that wasn't what we were. And she was so self-conscious about the schoolwork, right back and forth. Yeah, it wasn't, it was a good transition for her to transition out. And then I sat in, that whole year, I sat in on every video conference because it was the first year of the academy. So I watched every time Lindamood-Bell had something going on. I would sit in on the room, or I'd pull it up on the computer and watch and see what was going on.
She was like one of the first students, I guess, right?
So, well, the very first year, we were still doing Scene Stars.
Okay.
And so she was 2nd year academy. And so this is the 3rd year of academy. So she's done 2, so this is her 2nd year of academy. And watching the academy from afar as a parent with a child that has a learning processing issue was a home run. What was even more of a home run is that it was an individual plan for Tegan. So it didn't matter, if everybody else could do this section in 20 minutes and it took Tegan, 2 days to learn that section, or vice versa. Everybody had their own plan. And so that's why it wasn't hard for us to make that choice, because we knew she would get the support and her confidence. So we had seen in that 2-year span, we saw this leader go from being a leader to always being unsure, never being the leader, certainly never offering to participate in anything, always covering work. Changed our kid, right? Our kid was, like we said, we had a discussion about having number 4 because number 2 was such a strong personality. And seeing that innate strong personality change, as a parent, okay, we have to change something in a major way. And so this is, she's happy. You've met her. She feels important. She feels empowered. And that's really important to us. That's what's going to take her through life. And
She's not shy, huh?
no, she's not, but she was. But she had gotten to that point where she was so unsure because the reading was so hard for her. And she'd look at a sign and, somebody else could read it, and she really had to think about it. And she needed to be in an environment where she could see other people had that same challenge. And even her desk mate has an even harder time. And they are a wonderful complement because it is so nice for her to really realize that she's not the only one that can sometimes look at a sign and have to think for 5 seconds, okay, wait, yeah, I do know what that says. This is what it says. Because she sees somebody else with the same, right? With the same challenge or a different challenge. Some things that are easier for her desk mate are harder for her and vice versa.
There's a curriculum part and there's also some of the program stuff sometimes. What's kind of the balance for her between those?
So she needs that. So that was different. So this year at the start of Academy, they did part of the Scene Stars. So I don't even think she started curriculum back for 2 weeks, which is brilliant. I had even no idea. I mean, I had talked to Iris about what her plan was, but even as she began the year, and we did support this summer, so it wasn't like we didn't do anything for 100 days of summer. So she came in and with the plan, okay, she's going to do this much of Scene Stars, and we're going to put in, and she ended up needing an extra week of that. But how incredible to have a program that adjusts with your child. Instead of, well, this is the day we're going to start, and this is where we're going to start, and if you're not ready for that, I don't know what to tell you. Instead, she was able, I think it was like 4 extra days. Whatever it was, she needed the 4 extra days. And so then when curriculum started, of course she was able to keep up, right? She was able to give the results that she was supposed to give. So that's another part of this program that, that is unprecedented. I mean, we've looked high and low, and there's not anything else that we've been able to find that can give her that support for her brain along with curriculum. Well, and it's too, it's funny with this being the second year, like there's all these, it's fun being in a new program, right? New but old, like the Academy's so new. So like last year they did the yearbooks. So Tegan is, right, she's just so normal. And I don't know what the best word is, but she just wants Lindamood-Bell to be like a traditional school. Right? She wants to have that feeling. And so having the yearbook last year, huge. Because then she's like all her peers. And the kids that have been homeschooled from day one, it's different. They have a different mentality. But children that have not been homeschooled from day one, and we have 4 girls, she has, one older and one younger that are in a traditional school, and they come home with their yearbooks, and there's something to be said for being like it, right? I mean, she's a little kid. So
that's what I was going to ask. Do you feel like she gets some of those activities?
Yes.
Are there things that they do in the Academy that help them, get some movement, get some projects, get some things that are just not looking at the curriculum and or...
Absolutely. So those are in the science projects. Of course, there's, it's a new program. We're fortunate that I think we have 10 or 12 kids. So this is, and last year Tegan was the only girl, which was funny and didn't bother at all. We never really pointed out. So the office manager who ran all the lunchtime activities was very active, and so that would help Tegan in her support. We would be riding in the car, and to my husband, and she goes, "Can I go to Lindamood-Bell through college?" Which is amazing to say that, because this is a kid that was like, well, I'm not leaving traditional school. I'll just do both forever. And then when she realized she couldn't do both forever, to then be comfortable enough to say, yeah, I get this is the right environment for me to learn in.
Right.
But always trying to stretch, right?
Mm-hmm.
What can we add?
So what are the plans for the future?
We don't know, other than the learning processing issue is something that's what the example I use is like dyslexia, because people are so much more familiar with that. Said it's not something that ever goes away. So for all the time that she puts into this, she will always have to put extra time into it. Yes, some things get easier. She can read a book now, and and she enjoys reading, but her pace of reading is slower. And that's just because she's processed it. Her brain works differently, and she understands that her brain works differently. And as long as she is in an environment where she doesn't feel threatened, she thrives. I also understand too that this is a really unique, incredible program that we're a part of. So, and Tegan understands that I said, Tegan, when you're an adult, you'll be one of those people that will be able to go back and say, this program changed my life. I went from not being able to hang in school to achieving to this amazing level. I said, and there's a lot of power in that, Tegan, because think about how hard it was for you in the beginning. She goes, oh yeah, right? She already is learning that. So I don't know what the future plan is, other than this is a plan that works very well for her, and I don't see any other opportunities for her at this point that she can have the same support that she really needs and can learn from.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Good
I don't know. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you for your time.
And thank you for listening. Learn more about the Academy on the Lindamood-Bell webpage, lindamoodbell.com, and you can watch a video of the Shadlers on our YouTube page. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. We are Lindamood-Bell.